Welcome to the teachings of today's Holy Mass with Reverend Father Alphonsus. Be blessed by the love of Christ, who seeks the elevation of all his children through his word.
And the Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. At that time, Jesus told his disciples a parable to the effect that they ought always to pray and not to lose heart. He said, in a certain city there was a judge who neither feared God nor regarded man. And there was a widow in that city who kept coming to him and saying, "Vindicate me against my adversary." For a while he refused, but afterward he said to himself, "Though I neither fear God nor regard man, yet because this widow bothers me, I will vindicate her, or she will wear me out by her continual coming." And the Lord said, "Hear what the unrighteous judge says. And will not God vindicate his elect, who cry to him day and night? Will he delay long over them? I tell you, he will vindicate them speedily. Nevertheless, when the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on earth?" The Gospel of the Lord. Glory to Jesus. This last statement, there are some things Jesus Christ said here. The first thing he said is that men ought always to pray. Hello? I want us to start learning how to understand Jesus when he opens his mouth to speak. When Jesus opens his mouth to speak, you are hearing from the author of speech. You are hearing from the author of life. You are hearing from the Creator himself. So take every word serious. He says, men ought always to pray. So the only way by which you know a man is by prayer. You are not the only one breathing. Animals are breathing. Plants are breathing. The characteristics of living things are not restricted to you and I alone. Hello? All the characteristics of living things that I learned in primary school and later in JSS1 tells me that locomotion, excretion, reproduction, respiration. Let me complete it now. Don't we have students here? Now let me go school. Now the point here is this. We all share this with lizards, with millipedes, even with trees. Do trees not move? Growth is a movement. Yeah, they move. Forget about the external force. Trees move. Block their lights just now. You see them bending towards the like this. Locomotion, they move. Look, we are not men. They didn't call us men because we are bound by the characteristics of living things. That's at the basic tier of existence. We are not just that. And if you come to look at it, you discover that there are many human beings that are on the level of being animals. They are just animals. The Lord has given a revelation today. Say, men ought always to pray and not to faint. Period. So, in order to know a man, that person must be a person that communicates with the spiritual realm. If you do not communicate with the spiritual realm, you are empty. You are not a man. Understand that first of all. That is Luke chapter 18, verse 1 and 2. Verse 1 to 3 says, men ought always to pray and not to faint. So when you see somebody who is praying, there are people that have set themselves. As they are walking, they are chanting, they are praying. Sometimes you don't have words to say anymore. And then some people move into songs. When songs finish, some people move into speaking in tongues. They must occupy the space. There is one view in mind to keep the spirit active. Hey, the reason why there is problem in the world is because man has decided to be an animal. And I'm afraid for you and I, Catholics, who were only taught how to pray when we are in a church or when we are having devotion. Outside of that, nothing more. The Lord says, men, a human being is recognized. No wonder when spirits come, I've told you before, let nobody come to me in this church to tell me witchcraft beat you at night. Once I have a first example, I'll start keeping cane in the office so that all those that they are beating at night, I also beat my own during the day. You can't cheat me because I'm a juju too. So if they beat you at night, then it means you are beatable. All of us should just keep beating. I must enjoy my part. I must beat you too. But mine is during the day. How you tell me you are sleeping that they come to beat you? Do you know what happened there? They came, they didn't meet a man. A man is a man of prayer. Do not misunderstand prayer to mean the verbosity of our words. What do they call prayer? It's the raising up of mind and hearts to God. You might be listening to a music that you did not sing. It is playing in the bus. And then your spirit tuned to it. And then you are vibrating on that frequency. You are praying. Prayer can really happen in somebody's life continuously. When you see evil happening, you are chanting inside your heart. You are deciding that evil wouldn't have said. Do you know that when somebody lies and you rise and stand against that lie, do you know you are praying? Anything you do that is in accord with the will of God. The best way to pray with your action is now to do everything because of God. There was a dangerous philosophy that destroyed humankind. That philosophy that tells you that human being, even outside of God, has the capacity to do good. You see how the devil deceived us. Look at that statement. Human beings, even outside of God, has the capacity to do good. Do you know the meaning of that statement? That statement skillfully removed God from your DNA. But you are not a being outside of God. Did you not read? In John chapter 1, Gospel of St. John chapter 1, from verse 3, he says, there is nothing that is in being that came into being outside of his permission. That everything that came into being because he spoke them into being. What does that tell you? You cannot separate God even from the grass. You cannot even separate God from animal. And then this philosophy came and actively and intellectually separated God. That's why a big fool, according to Psalm 14 and according to Psalm 53, can open the mouth to say, I'm an atheist. The fool has said in his heart, there is no God above. If there is no God, then there is no you. How foolish is it for me to be speaking and I say, I am not speaking. I am incapable of speech. How foolish is it for me to be alive and I'm standing and I say, I am not standing. I am not the one here. Because it's the same thing as one who says there is no God. The foolishness cannot be measured. It is a gift. Oh my God. A gift that is in the form of a crown. Where cap covers wisdom. You wear a cap that covers your sins. That's the meaning of what the devil bequeaths on those people. And they think they have been given a crown. This is where we are. It's the reason why anybody would dare to separate science from the being of God. How can you separate science from the being of God? How foolish is it to think about it? Because the definition of science through and through is discovering what is already there. Science is a local tool to discovering that which already exists. And then a man will come out and separate God from the being of a man. So we cannot even do that to grasses, because you see the lilies of the sea. as Jesus Christ described it. The regalia of Solomon is nowhere compared to the beauty that God gave to flowers. Jesus himself said, Jesus himself said, combining the fashion of man with the fashion of God. That's the Son of God speaking. And they will now have Christians and Catholics who are living according to the system of the world that came to deceive us. By nature, you are God's and God is yours. By nature, an atheist is one who does not believe in God. By nature, an atheist is a fool. So that's why 2 Psalms emphasize that foolishness. 2 Psalms, Psalm 14 and Psalm 53. The fool has said in his heart, there is no God above. But there is something that follows that. The moment the devil is able to make you a fool, there is something that must follow it. Your deeds must become corrupt and depraved. Goodness will be far from you. So men ought always to pray and not to faint. It is the reason why the biggest investment, and is the biggest investment, go and find out, is to train a human being to communicate with the spiritual world. Do you know what it takes? None of you have been able to succeed in that. I can assure you of that. Many of us are just managing. Many of us are by the grace of God. Because if you are connecting with heaven, it is not, a priest does not need to come to obey to drive away the shrines and the demonic powers that are here. A strong man, a pastor, it takes a Christian. The point is, it is not the whole world that is Christian. The number of those who are Christians in this vicinity, when I talk about Christianity, and I'm talking about those who have Jesus Christ in them, and they are in Jesus Christ, I don't think we are up to 10. I'm telling you this whole city, because if we are up to 10, there will be obvious changes. When you come to a city and you see darkness in the sky, even though the sun is at its zenith, you have not seen it, isn't it? Darkness in Obed. The kind of darkness that enables brothers to shed the blood of brothers, where they ought to have been communion. What belongs to 2 of you, you have killed yourself over it. And you are still killing yourself over it. Children are born into that. All the blood that is shed here, you don't know what it means. They appease the demons of this area, this territory. And then you say there are Christians here. It is the clear proof, first of all, that there is no Christianity here. I'm telling you. We are doing church. We have not started doing Christianity. That's it. No matter how many we are doing church. We've not started doing Christianity. I want to ask you, have you finished Mass one day and all of you enter into this Obey community to the very last to speak about Jesus Christ to people? How many have you converted? How many are we in this church, first of all? You believe that the work is for evangelists, charismatics, Legion of Mary. We have not started. We should accept that. When a man starts to communicate with the spiritual realm, you become a shrine anywhere you stand. So when Juju meets you, Juju will shout, "Hey, see Juju!" You are supposed to be Juju. Because you are supposed to carry something that is larger than whatever it is. We just use mouth to say, "Greater is he in me than he in the world." It ends in statement. It does not resonate in reality. What is the extent of consecration that we have submitted ourselves into that would enable this reality to come into demand? What is the extent of consecration that we have subjected ourselves into that will make this reality become experiential? It's not something that exists in the theological spinning of somebody's mouth. Then somebody will now beat you in the night. You come and meet me. Come well. Come well. The spiritual world, when they look at this earth, they are searching for men who are animals so that they can ride on. What makes a man is not the scientific designation of the characteristics of living things. you give birth to. You know, I wonder those who boast about giving birth. You are giving birth. You have been praying for a child. You now have sons. You now have daughters. Let us check what you gave birth to. Did you give birth to a human or you gave birth to an animal? It is the spiritual world that will determine that. Yes. It is the spirit world that will determine that. I was in a house yesterday, and it took me like 5 minutes to decide whether a 14-year-old girl was a human being or an animal. From head to toe, every single reaction, and the parents were embarrassed. And she not did like this before. So why is she doing like this now that I'm around? What's the difference? What's the difference? Weak parenting. You feed the child's flesh. Because it is easy to do. That's the easiest. That investment on the flesh is the easiest. You know, we were not told. Remember what we read yesterday? That we are not to be blamed because we are ignorant, we didn't know. But again, the same Bible said, but we are to be blamed also because if we have the power to do the many other things that we do, how come we do not have the power to detect the deficit that is evident in what we are supposed to have become? Why are we becoming weaker every day in the face of evil? Why are we becoming weaker every day in the face of demonic accent, in the face of demonic sentences? Why are we becoming weaker every day? Why? Every one of us, we are all guilty. We are all guilty. So I want you, because this reading contains this first statement that Jesus Christ has said. This reading contains patience. Patience in asking God. That's another thing entirely. Patience in asking God for something. Jesus is saying that you definitely have it if you ask. So, and that patience is a big investment that many of us are not ready to engage. I hope you know that. I remembered the case of an aunt of mine who abandoned. Let me just tell you what somebody was able to do in the physical realm. The son was growing and was having some certain levels of challenges as a child. I think from 4 years old, when he is in a crowd, he tends to react seriously. It was a psychological state. And the child leaving the mother's ambience and now being exposed to the world, there was something that was igniting violence in the child, like to defend itself from the world. You know, they wanted the woman to take the child back home because the child was becoming a problem in the class, goes into frenzy, scattering everything and all that, you know, trying to defend itself. You know, I imagine a Nigerian mother today. And if not, if you manage, I'm going to look for inside classroom now. I'm going to look for inside office. I carry picking called giving and I'm also the teacher picking. You know, with all those smart words that we think are smart, that we know how to say. But she did something that I consider at least what we are supposed to be doing spiritually. But she did something physical that I will never forget. She was a registered nurse at the time. This was in the early 80s. And you'd imagine what it means for you to abandon your job at that time and started going to school with the child. So when the child is in class, she sits somewhere where the child can see her. She sits throughout class. This is not 1 week. This is not 1 month. This is not 1 year, I assure you. For as long as that child went to school, for 4 years. 4 years. You know, there are some of you that can do that. It's just that the opportunity didn't come. I don't try mothers. Don't try mothers, you know. Some of you can do that. But that's the extent we can go physically. 4 years. As long as that child went to school. The woman said, instead of this child to stay home, not going to school, she will down her trade, down her everything. This child must go to school. You see, that physical fight alone was able to destroy demonic forces, because that was a demonic force. I don't know whether she knew how to pray, but when she was giving me the story, she did not mention prayers as much as she mentioned her dedication to staying where the child will see him, where the child will see her. For 4 years. Now, she eventually stopped, not because they asked her to stop. They now discovered that at a point in time, when she goes to ease herself, the child is no longer looking at her. So teachers were noticing. Until the child now got used to the condition that the mother is always there, and for many periods didn't look out for the mother anymore, had blended to the conditions 4 solid years. 4 solid years. So eventually the child did not know when the mother stopped coming. It is only the one that carried the load that knows everything. The child did not know. But the child remembers. Because at her 75th birthday, it was one of the things that her first son greeted people with the massive surprise that many people who didn't know had. He remembered everything. You see, I'm looking forward to those parents who will sense something in their children, and they will begin back-to-back fasting. They'll begin back-to-back fasting. Create an altar in the night. Since it is in the coven that they gather to make these things, and the best time to attack a coven is by 1 o'clock. Create an altar in the night because of this child. But work not going to let us see road. Pursuit of money not going to let us see road. And your child is growing like an animal under your roof. You don't even know. Do you know how difficult it is now? You know how difficult it is now for you to bring the things about God to your child averagely? Don't forget, when we were small, the church was like our movie theater. The church was like our playground. So we had that opportunity. But now, your phones are your children's movie theater. And who are those that are there? Who are those that are there? The demonic spells that are being cast by music that are waxed today. And they tell you face to face who they are. Yeah, those are the songs you still play for your children. I look at an average 14-year-old, 15-year-old, my heart will just fly. Because you look at their face, sorry face. But what is inside is not sorry at all. It's not sorry at all. Just give them the chance for autonomy. That's when you know who you give birth to. They are like incubators right now. But what are they incubating? I can tell you firsthand. Unless a parent can tell me that since that child was born, or that the child had listened to gospel music, the child had listened to the statements of the Bible being read at home, so that the condition of the child's growth is actually fixated around the things that has to do with higher realms of the spirit, then you can say, and you can be sure that you are incubating something that is of glory in your child. Otherwise, demons are growing. Fierce looking ones, for that matter, are growing inside children. For those children whose spirit seems to be strong, maybe they're able to resist demons, but they will be empty. An empty soul is a playground for higher spirits. Men ought always to pray and not to faint. So, have you seen your son or your daughter enter into one corner or disappear out? He or she wants to speak to his or her God. Look, if you don't have such a child, you should accept it that that child is going to be a victim. Many of us who are adults actually eventually started taking God serious because He gave us some dirty slap in the spiritual realm. That's why many of us started getting serious with spirituality. Understand this difference. We were created to take dominion over that sphere. So God isn't going to do our job for us. Sorry. He isn't going to do our job for us. You know, like I said about 4 days ago or 3 days ago, He computed into us the capacity to act according to our godness. Agere sequitur esse. So if we are not doing the good we are supposed to do, remember, this Sapler Road traffic, if you don't come down from your vehicle to control the traffic, be ready to sleep there. And when you sleep there, it is your fault. Don't blame anybody, because How many people did you train? How many people did you train? You will think that it's only drivers, bus drivers, or taxi drivers that are causing that. You come down one day and go and look. You discover one mighty jeep with somebody that is big, and so also the foolishness is big too. It's in front of oncoming vehicles. And you will think, who did you train that you'll be expecting decency from? Sit inside your vehicle. You will sleep inside there. Look, we are the ones that need to walk. And everything to do this work has been codified inside of us. Don't forget this. We have the other thing that Jesus Christ said. He says, nevertheless, when the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on earth? Why did he make that statement? What is the meaning of faith? Let me tell you. Faith that Jesus is talking about is not much of faith in God as it is much of faith in the self. You see, it is from seeing myself that I know who God is. When I see myself, I understand the intention of the designer. Have you noticed the relationship between your brain and your kidneys? Have you noticed the relationship between your brain and your liver? The relationship between your brain and your bladder? Are you aware that one of the reasons why children pee at home is not from the bladder, it is from the brain? Can you calculate the wires that God used in wiring things inside of you? Then after looking at myself like this, the more science discovers, the more I am surprised about my God. How the reverse becomes the case can only happen through demonic possession. So for you to realize the full potentials of yourself, if David was able to proclaim in Psalm 138 that I was wonderfully made, why does wonder not come forth from you and I? There are proofs of the wonder already. This fan that is blowing, this light that is here, human beings like you and I, they beat the dimension of physical laziness. These men and women went into what they call contemplation, and by the time a human being goes into that deep thinking, you cross the boundaries of this mortal world without knowing. Every scientist enters into the realm of spirituality and they call it scientific knowledge. So waiting you don't see finish, you come put and say na science. When you're discovering the various elements that make up the periodic table, for instance, and you thought, you know what men went through to discover helium, what men went through to discover diamond, what men went through to discover the various elements, hydrogen, oxygen, and so on and so forth. Go to your periodic table. You know what men went through. Are you aware that periodic table is being upgraded today? I don't know whether they're upgrading Nigeria's own. Whether it's one that is a chemistry textbook, Go Chelon. Is it Go Chelon that time? That we used that many years ago. Whether that's what they are still giving us, I don't know. Because everything in Nigeria is backward. Every single day we are discovering. All these are the mysteries of God. That we're able to phone somebody from here and the person we hear in Canada is as a result of a rare earth element. An element that's able to trap waves and interpret waves. It is because there is a mode, that's why you can make a pot. So if I can speak, somebody is hearing there are elements that are making this possible. They are discovering it every day. The elements used in electronics, you see all those electronic boxes, you see some cathodes, some small things that they melted. All those things they melt. There is something under. Those things are carrying out information. How are they able to store things? Human beings have gone beyond the dimension of laziness and they pierce into the spiritual realm. Whether you like it or not, if you make that effort, angels will speak to you. You see, Jesus Christ said it. By the time you disturb, God will answer you. God can answer you through cosmic rays because God is the owner of everything. God is in everything, is in anything, and He goes higher than everything. Even somebody who is not a Christian, of course, who told us that it's only Christians that can see God? Christianity is a nickname. That's the reason why many mighty men had risen, but they are not necessarily of Christianity. The one who discovered the figures is an Arabic. That's why they call it Arabic figures. So you can see that even a Muslim, an Arabic man, was able to bring about the Arabic figures. That's the 1, 2, 3 that you're using. That is that is the center algorithm that is being used for all scientific arts today. Comes from that place. When a human being has made effort, there is a place you will cross. Your brain will be open to higher realities. Doesn't matter whether you're a Christian or not. Jesus came to show all humanity that. You see, Jesus did not say establish Christianity. He says establish a body of knowledge. People who have knowledge. So he came to teach. And when he was leaving, he says, teach all the things that I have taught you. Teach all. Go into the world and teach them. Expose them. He says, I thank you, Lord, for having revealed all things to the simple and not to the learned. Revelation. If you are looking at Jesus, just remove that word Christianity. It is the name called anointing. It is a nickname that the Antiochians gave those who are behaving like this man, Jesus. This guy came to reveal the creator of the world. Any human being can fall under that condition. But Christians, as so-called, we are supposed to be the prime movers of that knowledge. And we are the ones that are weak and faint-hearted. That's the faith that Jesus is talking about. Faith in the mystery of myself. Faith in me. So there are anonymous Christians. All those who are thinking about the good of the world and say, oh God, help me that I be able to function this good. A scientist that saying, oh God, help me that I'm able to create light. You think that's small? From candle lights to this, let there be light. Some people will enter heaven. We that have received all the communion on earth. We have received for over 70 years, 80 years, 90 years. We will pack all the communion and enter hellfire. And those who have never entered church before, we enter heaven. So you should understand this science. Jesus is not about religion. Jesus is about bringing human beings to the original status of being gods, where you communicate with the spiritual realm. That's why he says men ought always to pray and not to faint. So the same thing. If God comes, he's looking for somebody to use. He does not see a man, because God works through men. He will withdraw, he will go back. When demons come, they look for men. When they see where men are, don't forget the definition of a man is somebody that communicates with the spiritual realm, that prays. But when they come, when they don't see men, they see animals, and they'll start carrying animals for sacrifice. That's where they will organize. You see, Ovia River now, when it's time for Ovia River to chop again, nothing stops it. But why is it that men will pass? Because a parishioner that I'm just coming from that place, she had accident in her own vehicle. While they were rescuing them from the accident, nobody died, just small. Where they were seated, they were lining mangled bodies. People that you not see their head anymore, their head enter their neck, or those that their leg enter maybe their leg will come out from their throat. Mangled bodies, you're carrying them to pass. Not 1, not 10, not 20. Imagine. Power past power. Don't look down on yourself. They say men ought always to pray and not to faint. So the understanding of prayer is always being the spirit that you are. Always being in that level of connection, of communication with the deity. If anything happens to you under that condition, God is to be blamed. God will take responsibility. But I'm sure God cannot make mistakes. So every one of us need to stand. Do not consider your being here as being church work. You are not here for church. You are here to gather a body of knowledge that enables you to become what you are meant to be out there. Your Christianity is not to be practiced here. No. It's not inside the church that they should know that you are a Christian. No. You have come here to advance yourself in order to go out there to prove and execute yourself. May God bless us all and give us the wisdom to rise onto that level that God placed us. Make this prayer through Jesus Christ our Lord.
Please like, share, and if you haven't, hit the subscribe button and join us for daily reflections.